In 1978, Griselda rushes to her house in Colombia at night, bleeding, and patches herself up. She takes an aspirin, then calls her friend Carmen, who lives in Miami. She asks her to put her up with the kids, as she decided to leave her husband Alberto. Griselda and her 3 boys leave the house. On the way to the airport, she tells them that she and Alberto are getting a divorce, and they're moving to Miami. Griselda tells Carmen that she'll be staying at her house until she gets on her feet and find a place. Later, the 2 women catch up, and Carmen, who has her own travel agency, gives her a job to help her get started, because Griselda swears that she is out of the drug business and wants to start a business of her own one day. However, Griselda gets sick and tired of her job at the travel agency. She calls Arturo and reveals that she got out with a kilo of cocaine and wants to sell it. She wants to use the money to start over again in Miami. She goes to a nightclub with the coke but leaves it in the car. She spots Johnny snorting some drugs and pretends to bump into him. He buys her another drink and they chat. She offers him some of her coke and he introduces her to his boss Amilcar. Amilcar tells her that his business runs on volume, so he has no need for a kilo. As she is about to get in her car, Johnny threatens her with his gun and orders her to give him the coke. He takes it, punches her in the stomach, and leaves. The next day, Griselda follows Johnny and sees him selling her coke to Eddie the Bird Rankin. Griselda hides next to Johnny's car and then beats him up with a bat until he agrees to get her a meeting with the guy. Otherwise, she'll tell Amilcar what he's doing. She then takes her drugs back and walks away. That evening, Johnny shows up at Griselda's workplace, announcing that the meeting is set. Carmen watches them talking and inquires. Johnny reveals to her that Griselda is selling coke. Carmen fires Griselda and orders her to get out of her house. Griselda asks a Colombian dishwasher named Chucho that she meets at a diner to be her bodyguard. Together they head to a bar and meet Johnny, who takes them to a back room. Griselda meets Eddie and bargains with him until she convinces him to buy the kilo of cocaine for $20,000. He then asks her to touch his nose slowly. As he pays her and they celebrate, Amilcar's goon storms the place and shoots Johnny and Eddie. Chucho shoots the killer before he can attack Griselda, but he gets stabbed. Luckily, he survives. A man then shows up and shoots the killer to death. He advises Griselda to go home. However, Griselda goes to see Amilcar with blood on her face. She urges him to try her coke because it's 10 times better than what he sells. She promises that together they can make a lot of money. He tries it and thinks it's excellent. She claims she can get more coke and explains that she moved drugs for 10 years from Colombia to New York. He gives her one shot to double his order next month, and he promises to make her his supplier. Flashbacks reveal that Griselda's husband Alberto lost 2 shipments of coke in New York worth $500,000. His boss and his brother Fernando wanted his money, but he always had a thing for Griselda and wanted her to spend the night with him in exchange for wiping their debt clean. Griselda reluctantly did it. Then she met with her husband, who grew jealous, and asked if she enjoyed it. Griselda got angry, took his car keys, and told him she was leaving him. Alberto chased her to the car and told her she wasn't going anywhere. He then claimed that he made her, and without him she was nothing. He told her that she'd come crawling back in a week. That prompted her to take a gun and kill him and his associate. However, she also got shot, which explains the wound she patched up in the opening scene. Griselda and Chucho head to the Miami airport to pick up Arturo and Isabel, as well as a group of girls that Griselda used to work with in a brothel. They reach the motel, where the girls take off their bras for Isabel to remove the padding and retrieve bags of coke. Later, Arturo tells Griselda that they have a total of 10 kilos at $25,000 a key. Griselda and Arturo head to Amilcar's home, but the latter breaks his promise and refuses to buy her coke. He introduces her to his supplier, Papu Mejia. He says that he and Papu had a disagreement over price, but they settled it after he told him that Griselda offered him a better product at a lower price. Griselda realizes that he used her and confronts him about it. He offers to buy her coke for $5,000 a key, and Griselda loses her cool. Amilcar vows to tell every dealer in Miami not to touch her coke. In the elevator, Griselda expresses her dismay to Arturo about their predicament. Now she has 10 kilos of coke that is worthless as she can't sell it. At the Miami Police Department, a detective questions the waitress that works at the restaurant where Eddie got shot. June, an intelligent analyst, translates what Rosa says into English. Rosa reveals that there was a woman with 2 men who went into the back room. June later chats with Rosa, who reveals that the woman she saw didn't walk like a girlfriend, but like a boss. Griselda's friend Isabel tries to cheer her up and suggests going out. Griselda takes her friend to a fancy party, but Isabel thinks the guests look dead. She proposes rescuing them and they offer them coke. They spend the night snorting cocaine and dancing. Later, Griselda returns to the motel with a new plan and shares it with Arturo. She asks him to get her more coke and get a float from German Paneso. She asks Arturo to get Paneso to Miami so that she shows him the potential of her idea. She intends to sell the coke to the rich white people as they represent a huge untapped market. Her coke has the power to bring the excitement back to their boring lives. She praises the girls for being the best saleswomen in the world and decides they're not going to work in the brothel anymore. She promises to pay them huge amounts of money just for offering cocaine to the rich. Griselda welcomes German in Miami and brings him to a fancy hotel where the rich people hang out. She explains that the people there need what German has, which means they have a thirsty market waiting to be filled. She wants to set up this new market and she needs his coke. She asks for 100 kilos. He laughs in her face and decides to leave, but she convinces him to stay for one night as she has something special planned. The following night, Griselda and her girls throw a party on a yacht. She invites all the white rich people of Miami and has her girls sell them coke. German learns that Griselda managed to sell 3 keys and even recruited a tennis coach, an aerobics instructor, and a valet to be their dealers. Papo alerts Amilcar about Griselda giving freebies. Amilcar realizes that she's given out samples trying to set up her own market. Papo wants to deal with her and Amilcar tells him to go for it. Papo shows up at Griselda's yacht party and starts threatening her guests. German intervenes and reveals that he is Griselda's partner. The guests start throwing their glasses at Papo, prompting him to walk away. German agrees to give her 100 keys a week. Griselda's husband's brother Fernando tasks his henchman Dario with finding her so he can kill her. Dario asks some girls at the brothel where Griselda used to work and discovers that she is in Miami. Griselda is shocked to find him and Dario waiting for her in the motel room with her 3 sons. Fernando reveals to the boys that Griselda left town because she killed Alberto. He then drags her to the room next door to kill her. Fernando starts suffocating her to death. Her son Uber attacks Dario, rushes to the room and holds Fernando at gunpoint, but Dario stops him. Fernando orders Dario to kill him, but Dario shoots Fernando instead. Outside, he tells Griselda that he didn't do it for her. He did it because he never killed a kid. Griselda asks him to help her clean things up, and the episode ends. Griselda learns that Rafa Salazar wants to meet with her and Paneso. Arturo believes that the Ochoas want to buy Griselda out of her Miami drug operation. He advises her to take it, since a buyout could be a good end to it. Griselda, German, and Dario travel to the Bahamas. Rafa tells them that the Ochoas are the biggest suppliers in Colombia and shows them his airport hangar full of coke. Griselda realizes that Rafa brought them there to intimidate them. Rafa then invites them to his house and asks Griselda to step back from her drug business in Miami and let them build on it. He offers her and German $15 million to walk away clean. German likes the offer, but Griselda declines it. On the plane, German scolds Griselda for not accepting the offer, but she claims that the buyout is nothing compared to what they'll make going forward. Griselda reaches out to all the dealers in Miami who agree to meet with her, including Amilcar's right-hand man Rivi and Papo Mejia. She reveals that Rafa wants them all out so that the Ochoas can create a simpler system. She advises them to stick together and refuse to take the buyout. She adds that they should tell the Ochoas that they can't move a gram of coke in Miami unless it's through them. The dealers support Griselda, but some of them know that Amilcar has got too much heat on him at the moment, as he is being investigated for murder. Rivi informs them that Amilcar is determined to take the buyout. The dealers change their minds as they refuse to do this without Amilcar. Griselda begs Rivi to give her a chance to talk to Amilcar. In the car, Rivi explains that Amilcar is being linked to a murder and is getting cornered in all directions, so the Ochoas are the only light he can see. Amilcar tells Griselda that he admires her for standing in front of the dealers and trying to convince them, but he can't help her because he has to leave as there is a witness who may talk regarding the murder he committed. Griselda offers to kill the witness for him. That way, the heat on him dies and he can join their union against Rafa. Dario and Chucho hold the witness and his wife at gunpoint. Dario calls Griselda to let her know that the witness has a baby, but Griselda remains adamant to kill him and his wife, and Dario does it, but he spares the baby. The case against Amilcar is over now, and he agrees to support Griselda. He reminds her that if her plan works, he'll be in charge, and she needs to consult him on every decision. June has a hunch about Amilcar being the murderer, so she has the lab reprint the car, despite her superior telling her not to. Later, she gathers her stuff as she decided to quit, but Captain Sweetwater interrupts her and congratulates her for her excellent work, because the prints are a match with Amilcar, which are enough to put in for a warrant for him. Detective Diaz approaches June and thanks her for making the warrant. He invites her to come along to arrest Amilcar. As Rivi and Amilcar drive through Miami, they're surrounded by police cars. They refuse to surrender and exit their car, firing their guns. In the midst of the mayhem, Rivi and Amilcar flee, and June pursues Amilcar, finally catching him. Officer Diaz tells June that he is putting together a CENTAC, which is a central tactical unit, with feds and local agents. He asks her to join them, and she accepts. Griselda and her friends head to the nightclub to celebrate their agreement with the Ochoas, but she finds out from German that Amilcar was arrested an hour ago. Papu got Amilcar's territories, and he doesn't want to be in business with her, as he already made a deal with Rafa. German tells her that he is going with them, and he brought her dealers with him. Griselda begs Rafa to give her a chance. He says he knows she's the one who opened the markets with all those rich people. He's also aware that the other dealers could never do it. He admits that she is smart and she scares him more than the other dealers do. That's why he prefers to work with them, because he can control them. Griselda and the others move to a new house where they will stay for a few days until she's done fixing some things. She wants to kill those who stole her territory, so she sends Rigo and Chucho to Papo's house, where Rigo plants a bomb. A massive explosion destroys Papo's house, while Miguelito and Dario head to a liquor store and shoot German dead. Rafa visits Griselda and reveals that Papo is still alive and he's still in charge of the city. Griselda killed his father, and Rafa advises her not to let her guard down. Griselda realizes that Isa and Rigo might be in danger, so she sends Dario to check up on them. Once there, he finds the house on fire and the bodies of their two friends on the lawn decapitated. Griselda is heartbroken when he breaks the sad news to her. She calls Rivi to help her locate Papo. Rivi wants to kill him for her, but she declines because she wants them to know that she killed him herself. Griselda, Dario, and Miguelito track down Papo's goons. Dario and Miguelito kill some of them, while Griselda shoots Papo's right-hand man. Griselda addresses her army that consists of Cuban immigrants, about how they all get taken advantage of and abused, so she urges them to take what they want. She promises to help their families and fight for them, because as long as they work for her, they'll have a purpose. They won't be washing rich people's dishes, they'll be sitting at their tables eating their lobsters. Griselda sends her army to the Bahamas, where they burn the Ochoa's hangar full of coke. They also attack the Ochoa drops and steal their drugs. Uber notices that his mother keeps throwing up. She reveals that she is pregnant, but Dario doesn't know. She wants him to keep it between them. Rafa asks Griselda to give him back the coke, and he promises to give her back her territory. He says that Papo wants the war to be over too, as he needs to go to Colombia to bury his dad. Griselda says she'll give him her answer in the morning. Both Arturo and Dario advise her to take the victory and stop the war. Griselda then realizes that Uber told Dario about her pregnancy. He admits that she is a badass who doesn't quit, and that's what he loves about her. But he's worried that this has gone to her head and she's not thinking straight. He pleads with her to take her territory, as it's more than enough. Griselda tasks Miguelito with stabbing Papo to death at the Miami airport. Rafa calls her as he doesn't understand why she is still killing the dealers, given that he gave her what she wanted. Griselda says he gave her what was already hers. Now she wants the city and all of it. She advises him to go back to Fabio Ochoa and tell him that the cartel doesn't sell an ounce of coke in Miami unless it's through her. Griselda and Arturo head to the nightclub to meet Rafa's boss, Fabio. The latter is impressed by how clever and ruthless she is. Griselda tells him that she wants to be in charge and all Fabio's operations and products will run through her. Fabio agrees, but has Rafa shoot Arturo. He did it to make her pay for playing with them, so it doesn't happen again. Griselda trembles in fear as Fabio says, "Let's get down to business." For the last 3 years, Griselda has been running the Medellin cartel's operation in Miami. She is at the nightclub partying and sniffing her own coke. Rivi is now her right-hand man, much to Dario's dismay. Carmen assures him that she is still his. Rafa introduces Griselda to John Roberts, who has a lot of contacts around South Florida and can help her on the supply side. Griselda doesn't like him and declines his help, but Rafa explains that John is a heavy hitter whom Fabio likes. In Griselda's office, Rivi tells her that Santac was in D.C., as they had intel that was going to be used against them. He wonders who gave them that intel and surmises that there is a leak. They believe that some of the people on their payroll had some past issues with law enforcement, so they decide to clean house and make sure they're sealed up. Griselda heads to the beauty salon, while Rivi, Chucho, and co. go kill and torture Griselda's own employees. June and Diaz address Congress about Griselda and explain how Santac, and despite limited resources, has seized drugs and money as well as pursued several homicide investigations against Griselda's associates. They've located several of her stash houses, and they need to set up a surveillance operation on all of them in order to turn some of her associates against her. And for that, they need Congress to give them the resources to bring in more qualified officers and tactical support. Diaz tells June that he's been accused of scraping cash from one of his seizures, and the money was found in his bank account. He knows that Griselda put it there. The story is already leaked to the press. He knows that if he takes the investigation route, he could end up in jail, so he chooses to be reassigned. Now June and Al will be in charge of Santac. When Griselda started killing her own people, June realized that she is cleaning house to get rid of their informant. In truth, there is no informant. Santac got the stash houses because they broke the codes she's been using to hide the locations. If they hit one stash, Griselda will think that their informant is still active. Al is afraid Griselda will change her whole system. June admits that it's a risk, but Griselda already got out of control, so they should keep her fear alive, and maybe she makes a bigger mistake and gives them an opening. Dario's lavish birthday party comes, and Griselda offers him a golden gun as a gift. Rivi then reveals that Santac found their stash house in Fort Lauderdale. Griselda thinks that they haven't killed the informant yet. She then spots John Roberts at the party, who showed up uninvited, and tells Dario and Rivi that she suspects John to be tipping the cops. She reminds them that Rafa shot Arturo in front of her and is always wanted to take her out of the business. Rivi thinks that Griselda wants to kill them, but Dario rejects the idea. Griselda's son, Dixon, gets high and hits a man. Dario intervenes and Griselda overhears John say this whole family is a 6-car pileup. She confronts him about it and then calms down and asks Estela to bring the cake out. Dario pleads with Griselda to look a little closer at her life because Rivi has been putting ideas in her head every day, and she's using too much, killing people for nothing. He pleads with her to take their boys and leave that place away from those people. Griselda refuses because she's finally on top. Dario insists that he is protecting her, but Griselda accuses him of being the informant. He tells her off and storms out. Uber is concerned about his brothers and shares this with his mom because he saw his little brother Michael using a Coke straw to drink chocolate milk. Griselda calls him ungrateful and reminds him that everything she does is for him and his siblings. Uber calls her out for misbehaving like Dixon and walks away. Carmen heads home and finds June waiting for her. The latter reveals that when they hit Griselda's stash house, they found a lease contract with the name of the company that the house was rented to, and it's Carmen's. and renting a house that holds cash and drugs is enough to get a warrant on that company's financials, which will definitely show how she is laundering Griselda's money. June says she doesn't care about the drugs or the money. She only cares about the murders that Griselda committed. She offers her a deal so long as she talks to them, but Carmen declines the offer. Griselda tries to apologize to Dario but finds him talking to his assistant Estella. She accuses him of cheating, grabs the gun, and chases after Estella. The latter flees in her car. Griselda thinks Dario was complaining to Estella about them. Dario loses his cool and tells her that she ruined her boys. He says that he's not going to let that happen to Michael, which prompts her to turn to Dario's empty car and shoot it up. She then orders John to take off his clothes, get on his knees, and start barking like a dog. Carmen shows up, takes the gun from her, and gets her inside the house. Carmen consoles her and tries to reason with her. She offers to help her and the kids get out of Miami and start fresh. She's been putting some clean cash in a bank account, so she offers it to Griselda so that she opens some travel agencies in some other city. She then tells her about June, offering her a deal, but she refused it because she would never betray her. Griselda doesn't believe her and is adamant that she is the rat, so she starts choking her to death. Luckily, Dario intervenes and rescues her. Griselda confesses that now she doesn't even know why she hurt him and killed her own people. Dario reminds her that they're rotten in there. He pleads with her to forget the informant and just take the money and leave. He wants them to start from scratch. Griselda tells him that she doesn't trust him anymore and asks him to leave. Dixon and his girlfriend go to a nightclub. When a man starts hitting on her, he fires a gun in the air and they flee. Dixon begs Chucho to take the gun and hide him. He also wants him to tell the cops that he fired the gun. Chucho's wife tells Dixon to leave, especially as they have a kid in the house. Dixon reminds Chucho that he must do what he says because it's his job. Chucho punches him in the face and orders him to leave. Dixon tells Griselda what Chucho did and lies that he was going to give him up to the cops. He wants her to teach him a lesson. Griselda orders Rivi to kill Chucho as she believes that he is the informant. The next day, Rivi spots Chucho in his car and shoots at him. However, he misses and kills his 2-year-old son in the back seat. Griselda is sober and learns that Chucho is still alive. She sighs in relief as she realizes that she misjudged the situation the other night. But as she joins her kids in the living room, she sees the news and is devastated to learn that Chucho's child was shot 3 times. The episode ends with Carmen deciding to take June's deal. The finale begins with Griselda partying with Marta. The latter tells her that Rafa wants her cousin to have her killed. Griselda begs her to talk to them for her and tell them that she is the only one that knows how to get the job done. She promises to make Marta her partner. However, Marta suddenly overdoses on cocaine and dies right after falling on a glass table. Rivi and Griselda realize that they need to get out of town, because Rafa and Fabio may not believe that Marta overdosed and died accidentally. Rivi also informs Griselda that one of his guys followed Carmen, who went directly to Santac. Griselda is heartbroken to hear that, but Rivi reminds her that she did try to kill her. Griselda decides to dump Marta's body to make the others think that she and Marta skipped town together. They find out that Marta has a huge secret stash of coke in her closet, so they take it, along with Marta's body, to make Rafa think that Marta ran off with it. But Rafa shows up, so they leave Marta's body in a jacuzzi boiling and flee. Griselda gets a call from Dario, who says he doesn't care about what happened and that he's not coming because he can't keep doing this anymore. He states that it's over between them. He even took their son Michael and left Miami. Griselda vows to hunt him down and leaves town with Rivi and her sons. With Santac, June notices that Carmen is feeling uneasy about giving up more on Griselda. But Carmen says she doesn't know anything about the murders, despite being by Griselda's side for 3 years. Carmen says she wants out of all of this and to be put somewhere safe. Rafa is reeling over Marta's death. He knows that Griselda is going to sell that coke, so he wants to find out the second it hits the streets. Griselda and Rivi head to their new place of hiding in a motel in Long Beach, LA. She asks Rivi to sell the coke in stages so they don't alert Rafa and co. Then they'll have enough money to live somewhere nobody can find them. She then offers her 3 sons necklaces to wear and feel close to each other. Griselda calls Carolina as she knows that Dario and Michael are staying at her place. but Carolina lies and asks her not to call again. Rafa manages to track Griselda down after Rivi sells the first batch. Rivi gets a call tipping him off that Rafa is in LA on his way to the motel. He alerts Griselda and she sends her sons out of the motel room. Before she hangs up, Rivi tells her that he has this feeling that in a past life the two of them were lovers. They bid each other farewell and Griselda calls the cops on herself, while Rivi takes the boys somewhere safe. Rafa and his goons show up and watch Griselda getting arrested. June hits the roof because she only has Griselda on drug charges, which means she'll do 5 years with good behavior, protected from the cartel, and she'll walk out clean. Griselda's lawyer makes sure that she'll be placed in protective custody at all times in exchange for her plea. June doesn't want to let Griselda win. She then realizes that Griselda wouldn't leave without someone else to protect her kids. So she puts an APB out on Rivi for kidnapping Griselda's youngest son, Ozzy. The next day, Rivi gets arrested. The cops tell Griselda that they offered Rivi a deal and he accepted to tell them everything about her, otherwise he'd face the death penalty. Griselda is heartbroken to learn that Rivi betrayed her. Rivi is the star witness against Griselda, but he deliberately blows up the case by having phone sex with the DA's assistant Janice, while being recorded. Griselda learns that the recording is about to go public, which means Rivi is no longer a strong witness against her. Griselda ends up getting 7 years in jail. Years later, June visits Griselda in jail to inform her that her sons got attacked. Dixon was shot while he was walking to his car, Ozzy was in a crowded nightclub, Uber was shot in Colombia while he was making a drug deal, and Michael is still alive and he is with Dario's mom. As for Dario, he also got shot. Griselda is finally released and she heads to the beach in Los Angeles, the last place she went with her boys before going to prison.